Hey friends, it's your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy GM Prep. In this weekly show, I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday role-playing game. In this case, I am running Scourge of the Dragon Empire, a homebrew campaign set in the Midgard world made by Kobold Press using the Tales of the Valiant rules, but also by Kobold Press. This show is brought to you by the patrons of Sly Flourish. Patrons get access to all kinds of great tools and tips and tricks to help you prep your games, including the 5e Artisanal Monster Database, the Forge of Foes Monster Builder, random treasure generators for all different systems, a random generator for all different kinds of things that you can put in a game. Tons of stuff that you get for being a patron of Sly Flourish. You also get to join the awesome Sly Flourish community over on our Discord server, and you get to help me put on shows like this. So to the patrons of Sly Flourish, thank you so much for your support. So last week, our heroes were just getting out of I think they had already successfully dumped their millions of gold into hell, specifically into the Deadlands. Not the Deadlands? I don't think it's called the Deadlands. The Drylands, the Dustlands, or the Drylands, I think it's called, which is sort of like a undead hell. And that is where the god Mott lives. And I think, we can kind of decide like what happened with the gold, but we don't need to worry about that right now. All we know is it's down there. So they got rid of the gold. They managed to take some of their own. They have 10,000 gold worth of credit with the Blue Barbers, a group of smuggler, assassin, barber folk who live in the Shadow Realm along the Shadow Roads. They met them before. So this is kind of a neat group that they can work with, and that can be a fun thing. And then they're getting their way out of the castle, the keep that they robbed. I guess they kind of robbed it. So the Dragon Empire, agents of the Dragon Empire, are starting to make their way back to the keep to figure out what the hell happened. Their leader, multiple leaders over there were killed by the characters killed multiple leaders over there. So like figuring out who's even in charge was a deal. But meanwhile, the characters went up. They walked around a throne 3 times, saying, "I will walk through fire and ice." And when they zipped around, they found themselves in the Shadow Realm. They then got into an immediate fight with agents of the Dragon Empire who were guarding it on the other side, plus agents of a particular one of the, what are they called? In the Book of Ebon Tides, they are called the Fey Courts. So one of the courts, and I forget which one. We'll figure it out. Let's see. This was to be no spreads, vertical scrolling. There we go. Okay. And I know I'm not on the right page anyway. So the characters made their way over. Let's see. I think, do I have it in here? So they faced Maradi Guardians. The Scorched Drake they actually managed to use against their enemies, which I think was great fun. They did a bunch of checks and got that to work out. Yeah, the Commander of Horn and Gold. So this is the Court of Horn and Gold. And there's a Keep of Horn and Gold that actually operates underneath the Court of the Mistress of Magic, but operates pretty independently. That's Caradin Blackwing. Yeah, under the Queen of Night and Magic, but is left to his own affairs. He's the one that has an agreement with the Dragon Empire. So we now have a faction that's on the other side who operates with the Dragon Empire and does so somewhat reluctantly. But I think now Blackwing is certainly angry at the characters who killed killed members of his court. These sable spies that they battled. So that is kind of an interesting thing. And then the characters decided they had some multiple paths they could take. Remember, if you recall, I said, I made a mistake of not having them choose a path, and I wanted them to choose a path. So then I had to do a little prep on both of them. And I said, do you want to follow the Scholar's Path, which means like negotiating your way past members of the court, and they could run into other groups. I had this whole like Moondrakes and other groups. Or do you want to follow the Gravesong Low Way, which was like a hidden path, and they decided to go along the Low Way. And they ran into some saber-toothed tigers outside of a monument to the demon god of night. And we ended the fight mid-battle. And I took some screenshots, or I took some pictures with my phone, but I don't know that I will remember everything about the battle. And I think like in it, the battle is going to be interrupted by an ice demon of Kalasur, known as the Silver Eye. And Kalasur is the queen of Winter's, the queen of the court of Winter's Love, who wants to meet the characters. And I think she wants to meet the characters because because she's interested in what they're doing, and that she doesn't really like the Dragon Empire, and she's afraid that the Dragon Empire is seeping its way into their lands here, and she wants to stop it. And she thinks that the Queen of Night and Magic is shining a blind eye to it. These are all like secrets that we're going to do. So, but today I know where things are going to go. I have some big questions about the game today that I want to noodle through. But for now, what we're going to do is create a new template for my session notes. Ooh, I'm going to do something else. I had a thought. And we're going to go down to my templates here, and I have a Dragon Empire template. This is all using Obsidian. If you want to learn more about Obsidian, you can find a link in the show notes for using Obsidian. I am no longer, here, you ready for a big thing? I am no longer going to have a strong start in that section. And instead, I'm going to put the strong start directly into scenes. This doesn't change the 8 steps. You still need to think about your strong start, and I think it's still a really important thing to do. But just for my notes alone, I want to have I'm going to put my strong start under scenes, and it just makes my notes a little tidier, and it means I don't duplicate the strong start in scenes or omit the strong start from scenes. Now it's built right into scenes in the one place. So it's kind of a little bit of normalization there. But we are going to create a new template from that now, and new note from template, and we're going to Dragon Empire, bang. So who isn't there today? I know that Gaudenzia is not there today. Emmert is there. Tolstoy is there. I think Rowan, I don't think is there today. Amavin, Cal, Mateo, Tolstoy, and Emmert are all there today. So those are today's characters. Are there any? I really ought to, I'm going to add this to the template too, since I'm dorking with the template already. Keeping my template up to date. I'm putting these little hyphens next to the names of the characters. And that way it kind of reminds me, like, what's the thing that I want to note for the character? One thing I've been thinking about, and I'll add them here too into my notes. There we go. So Amavin is a rogue. Let's see, knows that the Sable Elf spies were adjutants of the Dragon Empire. Not DE themselves. Adjugates? Is that a word? They were allies of the Dragon Empire, not DE themselves. So that's something. Cal, who is a druid, recognizes the twisted landscape of the Shadow Realm. So you can do little Shadow Realm-y sort of secrets there. So Mateo's one I'm thinking about, because I want to offer... So I've been thinking about mechanists. Like, mechanists are a class in Tales of the Valiant that I don't really understand. And they have a shard of creation that they use to make things. And what I'm going to offer is, like, I'm thinking that there's like a gemstone. So clearly the mechanist is sort of like a fantasy Iron Man. And if you recall in the Iron Man movies, he gets upgrades to his little power core thing. And I thought it would be pretty neat if he could get like a +1 one that would make his armor +1 higher, and also give him like a bonus to damage and attack and damage, as though he got a +1 weapon, but it's built into his armor. So I'm thinking of offering something like that. So we'll say can attach shards, power shards, to his armor, and that will be kind of a new sort of upgradable magic item that he could pick up, and then he can as like a. They're attuned to him, so he has to attune to one. And one could be like, this is your armor bump, this is your damage bump, this one adds, damage types to it. This one might have a spell that you could cast off of it, things like that. Daily use spell casting that you could do for it. So there's like fun ways to essentially have these augments, these power shards that he can do. So I think I'm going to offer one of those today somehow. Maybe an icy one. Ooh, like a devilish icy one. Tolstoy is our resident wizard. What does he know? What would he know of this whole thing? Recognizes the value of the rifts between the courts and the Dragon Empire. In other words, seeing that there's these rifts, these areas of tension between the Fey courts and the Dragon Empire can be manipulated in order to kind of break the Dragon Empire down. Emmert, the ranger, kind of the problem is sort of the same thing as Cal, can recognize the twisted nature, probably knows some details about the Fey courts and their politics. Those are pretty good. So the strong start is fighting, and we had, let's see. Well, I don't know. I have 2 copies of that up. So they were fighting Fey-touched saber-toothed tigers. These were hitting them really hard too. They were having a real bad go with this. And then the ice devil shows up. So we'll just grab this right out of here. Interrupted by an ice demon of Calisur, of Queen Calisur. Is she a queen? I think so. Known as Silver Eye. So that's our strong start. That's pretty solid. Journey to the Court of Winter's Love, I think it's called. Yep. So what do they note along the way? We could have like sad, frozen, weeping trees, tree spirits, fallen monuments of the court. And so there are more devils, smaller devils peering in. So the characters make their way to the Court of Winter's Love. Is there, for this scene, so I don't want to just wax narrative, is there an opportunity for them to make some choices here, other than just following Silver Eye to the Court of Winter's Love? I mean, they can ask questions to Silver Eye. They can kind of investigate the tree spirits along the way. They can ask about or learn things about the fallen monuments of the court. But is there really, I don't know if there's any other major choice to have. So if there aren't choices in a scene, you want the scene to go pretty quick. Then they meet Queen Calisur, and then they're going to head to the junction, the star-touched statue of Anuakma, god of the underworld, and then transfer to Nerdarin. While I'm thinking about it, why don't we take a look? We'll get a real random table here from a random generator and we will, a star-touched oozing geyser. Could be kind of fun. So what if there was a geyser, star-touched, and it is located in what? We're going to have a location here. In an old watchtower, and we're going to tie this to a Southlands deity of Aten. So that's the transfer point on the other side. There could be like a pool and it like splashes up and then it kind of, vacuums down, and that could be the transfer point. Although they would have transferred all of that gold and stuff. I'm just thinking about like what that would have been like the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 scenes. That's probably enough scenes for today, I think. We'll probably have the Guardians of the Junction, which would be what? Probably Dragonborn Knights. And so they probably have the same kind of thing, right? And Scouts. Sable, Elf, Scouts. But Shadow Drakes might fly in with Sable Knights and that's of the dude, what's his name? Blackwing. Because they know, he knows that his guys have been killed on the other side. So there might be a bigger multi-wave fight here. So let's see. Secret-wise, let's see if there's any secrets from here. And I think I want to change things up a little bit. The secrets are pretty important in this session because... So Scholar's Path follows the Mistcall Mountains past the Tower of Horn and Gold, yes. Junction back to Midgard is the star-touched statue of Anuakma. They did learn that, yes. The junction is south of Gloomhold in the region of the Twilight Empire under Emperor Vilmos Markuring, known as the Black Fang. Yes. They did not learn that, but I'm going to keep that. High in the peak of the mountain golds with the Shadowfey is the Tower of Horn and Gold. Yes. Tunnels beneath the tower lie mostly completely unexplored. They did not learn that, but it doesn't really matter. Caridan Blackwing, the commander of Horn and Gold, is under the court of the Queen of Night and Magic, but left entirely to his own affairs. Blackwing is aware of and angry about the killing of his sable elf scouts, one of whom was a cousin of his. It was his wife's cousin, so he'll feel like he needs to do something about it. Let's shake that up and make it his husband's cousin. And Calgara, Shadowhand. Calgara was the one that was killed. And Blackwing is mad. Blackwing allied with the Maraudi in exchange for the gift of Shadow Drakes. The other courts believe the Court of Winter's Love is abandoned or dead, but in reality it's commanded by the reclusive Calisur, Lady of Ashen Sorrow. So she is known as Lady, and we'll put her in NPCs. So we have Caridan Blackwing, commander under the Queen of Night and Magic. We have Lady Calisur, Queen of Winter's Love. I don't know what she is. Before I was going to make her a vampire, but I do vampires all the time. I kind of want her to be something else. I don't know what though. The fact that she's got connections to devils, I think is interesting. Claremond, Lord Claremond. I think we're going to make Callus-Lur's husband a captive of Vestar the Shining Storm in Nerderin. The question is, what are they? I'm not sure what they are. So in the book, she's a ghost, but that's kind of boring too. The idea that she sort of sits between life and death is interesting because it's like the court has fallen, right? The court of Winter's Love has fallen. And it fell even though her husband, that her husband was picked up. The idea that like maybe her husband is just a normal elf, right? And that he just, that she, he just keeps her, happy, right? Like he's the only bit of happiness that she has in her life. She could be this like half fiend that appears like one thing, like a pale elf, but really she's like this hulking monstrosity in the background that you can never quite get your eyes around, right? You can see this like shifting mass and, you don't know exactly what she is, a being between life and death, a hulking being between life and death, whose visage cannot be fully seen by mortal eyes. She appears as a pale, white-haired elf, but she is Caps something else. I kind of like that. She is probably like a CR 14. If we needed a stat block for her, I could whip one up, but I don't think I'm going to need a stat block for her because I don't think they're going to attack her. Claremond, he's not a lord, right? I don't think he's of the same. And what is he? He could be a fey-touched goblin who keeps Lady Callus-Lur from falling into deep despair. The Dragon Empire kidnapped Claremond and has him in Nerderin. They were told about his value from Blackwing. So now we got some fun inner court politics going on here. Yeah. So I think that's, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a lot of secrets. I think we're good on secrets. So fantastic locations. I think we've got a lot of that already wired in here. So we're fighting saber-toothed tigers, but we're fighting at a fantastic location. And that was the megalith of Alkim, the god of night. I have a fun little prop I can use for that. At the megalith of Alkim, the demon god of night, interrupted by the ice queen, the ice devil, right? Known as the Silver Eye. So yeah, so we've got, this is where you're like, you don't necessarily need to have your steps broken out the same way, because if I like this one, I've got location, I've got monsters, I've got NPCs. One sentence has 4, it's got a scene, it's got monsters, it's got a fantastic location, and it has NPCs. So we have 4 of the 8 steps compressed into one sentence. That's pretty cool. This one also has like some fantastic locations in it. The Court of Winter's Love. Let's jump over to our notes here. And let's look at the Court of Winter's Love a little bit. Cultism most desolate of the Fey Courts of the Court of Winter's Love, ruled by Callus-Lur, the Lady of Ashen Sorrow, a ghost whose touch and voice destroy most mortals who meet her. That's kind of interesting. Court itself is home to ice bogies and snow maidens, various ice demons. So they're not devils, they're ice demons. Are there ice demons that we know of, like standard demons? I think I'm just going to go ahead and use the ice devils. Thriving community of quick steps, who all seem immune to the Fey Lady's song and terrifying presence. Most of the court's inhabitants stay far away from its ruler other than the devoted shades of Callus-Lur, her ghostly court of undead courtiers, all of whom are immune to her deadly presence. The head chamberlain, Porthane, is also a chief priest of Karen, and one of the few voices the queen considers when deciding where. This is a good. We have a secret that also has an NPC in it. We will drop that into our head chamberlain and priest. She could be just like a giant banshee, right? I think like the idea of like her undead, that she's sort of a giant banshee, but I also like the idea that she's sort of bestial. The Singing Tower. The tall white tower. The court is unmistakable, and at most hours of the day, a slow, low howling can be heard from it. These are the wails and moans of Queen Callislur, whose voice draws in and slowly devours any visitor she finds entertaining. Rumors claim that these are sometimes old lovers, and at times foes, rivals, or simply those whose appearance she finds pleasing. She is easy to gain audience with, but her attention is difficult to survive, as the distant moan is a song of terror when heard from within the tower. The queen's servants among the weird gnomes are often made deaf by her song, so she's got the weird, W-Y-R-D. The Demon's Hall, which is where her seven demons lie. So the Singing Tower is a location. This is where she holds court, and we have a continual moaning, shining white walls. And I think we'll throw the Demon Stone. So we've got that. Is there any other aspects to this? It's Callislur. So we have like the little thing here. She's got some Hecate. Let's see. Alcom and Karen are some of the gods. Mott would know a lot about this. Catel is the chained devil of Mott. Would know of her. I'll call it a dreadstone because I think I'm going to keep it devils instead of demons. It's kind of interesting. They're more, kind of more tied to devils. So let's see. Going back to my notes here, are there any further connections to the characters that I've picked up while doing this? Probably Emmert. So we can change Emmert. No, Emmert knows the details of the Fey courts and their politics. I think that's pretty good. Do we have any clerics? I don't think we have any clerics. That's funny. So I think that's pretty good. Do I need monsters? I don't think so. Treasure. So let's see. She might gift Matteo a shard. Maybe she'll give him 2 shards. And he can pick which one he wants to use. One is a shard, a +1 power shard, that we call it. And it does what? +1 to attack and damage when using his armor, his fancy armor. And then another one, so it could throw some damage on there. I kind of had her, I think it could probably, it's a spirit shard, right? A +1 spirit shard. Once per day. Plus 1d6. So which is better? 1d6 necrotic damage. They're tier 2, so it's not out of hand. We could do plus 3d6 necrotic damage on a single attack once per day. It's a nice kicker, right? So he gets +1 to attack, +1 damage, and he can add plus 3d6 one time. Bang. It's sort of like a smite. And then let's look up some other treasure. I'm going to use my... Where is it here? Tales of the Valiant treasure generator. And we're going to go to the 5 to 10 and go bang. A gem of seeing. What's the gem of seeing like? Is that going to break some stuff? Rare item has 3 charges. In action, you can speak the command's word to expend a charge. For the next 10 minutes, you have true sight to a range of 120 feet when you peer through the gem. The gem regains 1d3 expended charges daily at dawn. Is that so bad? I don't know that this is true sight. I think that's okay. It's a powerful item, but I think it's okay. So we'll put that on the list. What is a returning charm? Golden tassel is a series of loops that wrap around each other. Returning pattern. In their beginning, you must spend 1 minute to tie a tassel onto a weapon with the thrown property. To use the charm's effect, a weapon with the return charm returns to your hand immediately after use to make a ranged weapon attack. Is that permanent? I mean, that's kind of cool. I don't know that a potion of clairvoyance. 3rd level, you create an invisible sensor within range of location. When you drink this potion, you gain the effect of the clairvoyance spell. But clairvoyance is a weird spell, right? A clairvoyance, you create an invisible sensor within range. So I guess you can still do it. And the range is what? Within a mile. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. All right. So that's some fun treasure. That's for sure. I think I'm going to switch these. I like the acidic ghoulish pewter statue. But we're going to make it a platinum statue. I don't know about it being acidic. Ghoulish platinum statue worth 500 gold. That's a good piece of treasure from another world. So I got a big pile of treasure. So how do I feel? Do I feel pretty good about this? I think I feel pretty good about this, right? I was kind of concerned about what to do, but now I got ideas for what the queen is like. We got ideas about who her husband is and what's going on with him and that he's been kidnapped and there's some drama there that sets things up for them to go. Yeah, I think we're good. So the Shadow Drakes. Let's go to... One last thing I want to check out is Shadow Drakes. And I think they're going to be in my artisanal monster database. So we have shadow drakes. There's shadow dragons. There's the elder shadow drake in Tome of Beasts. Really, we could reskin. That's not bad. So I don't feel like carrying around the entire Tome of Beasts with me. I can always look it up on my phone. Stygian breath. Ooh, it does a lot of damage. So a shadow drake with a rider would be a fun. Elder shadow drake would be fun. And that's under the Guardians of the Junction with a sable knight on its back. Yeah, that's cool. Cool. I feel like I'm ready. I got my notes. Let's export these and print them out. That's not what I wanted. File, export to PDF. Oh, just fits on one page. That's funny. I guess, do I have a lot of scenes? I don't know. Well, anyway, it fits. But I'm only printing on the first page. And it just fits. That's really funny. And we're good. Friends, I want to thank all of you for hanging out with me today while we prepped for my game. If you enjoyed this show and you want to see more stuff like this, the best thing you can do is subscribe to the Sly Flourish newsletter. You get a weekly RPG related email with links to all of the other videos and stuff that I do in it. You also get a free adventure generator PDF for signing up. It's absolutely free to sign up. That's at the Sly Flourish newsletter. Again, link in the show notes. You can also support me directly on Patreon. Patrons get access to things like the 5e Artisanal Monster Database, the random generators, other tools that I use to help me prep my games are all available to patrons of Sly Flourish. And you can pick up any of my books, including Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, Lazy DM's Companion, Lazy DM's Workbook, Forge of Foes, City of Arches, and more at the Sly Flourish bookstore. Links for those are all in the show notes. Thank you so much. Have a great day and get out there and play an RPG.